Hey, everybody, it's Donovan with the Music Retail Podcast. I want to thank you for being here today and for watching today's episode. I think you're going to really enjoy it. You know, my goal with the Music Retail Podcast is to interview people that are interesting, that have something to give and to share, that can help you build a better business. In order to make sure you receive future updates, please like and subscribe. That not only will keep you in the loop for things as they come up, but it also helps the YouTube algorithm to know that people actually like this content and will share it around. Okay, let's get to the interview. All right, so today I'm really excited to do this interview with Larry Noto from the Music Land. And when I came up with this idea for this podcast last year, I made a list of some people that I wanted to talk to. And Larry made that list right from the very beginning, because my first exposure to the Music Land, and Larry in particular, was at the NAMM Top Dealer Awards, where you won the Best Store Turnaround. And oh, wow. I think there probably was not a dry eye in the place when they kind of told the story of your dad with the music store and how you came involved. And so I just kind of want to jump right in, and I want to hear the history of the Music Land and your dad and how that business got started and how you got involved in it. So Larry, kind of take it away and tell us your story.
Okay, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm flattered. That's very kind of you. And I'm sorry you can't see me. I'm in hiding.
You're in the witness protection program.
And I shaved and everything.
Oh, man.
I know. My goodness. But, so musically, so my father was a musician he was born in Sicily. And it's like, I don't know how far back to go. I'll go back to, Sophia on Golden Girls. Picture it, Sicily, 1942. So he was born in Sicily, and he came over to America when he was 16. And, he was always a musician. There's a great picture of him as a kid in Italy with all these kids playing soccer. They're all in their soccer uniforms, and he's on top of the pile with his accordion, which I think is hysterical that he was like the sideline entertainment with an accordion when he was like 8 years old. So he started, he actually had a store in Baltimore before. It was called Govin's Music, and he taught private lessons. And then for some reason in 1971, we're coming up on our 50th anniversary, he moved it to this town called Bel Air. And in 1971, there was nothing in Bel Air, but another local music store owner, the neighborhood was changing in Baltimore a little bit. And somebody said to him, you should check out Bel Air. I think it's up and coming. And so that's when Music Land was started in 1971. And that's when he found it in this little house in town. Then it went to a strip mall in the 70s till about 89. And then 30 years ago, he built the building that we're in right now. And so like I said, coming up on our 50th anniversary. So my part of the story is that I actually had nothing to do with the store. I mean, I would stop in and maybe worked a little bit when I was a kid. And but this was his baby. He was an old school Italian immigrant, and he ran everything, out of his head. There was no point of sale. There was no QuickBooks. There was no inventory system. He was one of those guys. It was like a guy would walk in and he would remember what he played and what he liked. And he'd say, "Oh, I got something for you." And he'd go upstairs and he'd pull some box off some shelf. It was like Harry Potter. The guitar chose him. And, that's how he ran it with, a few other guys helping him. But it was really his show. You came here and you saw Joe Noto. And he had a first battle with cancer. And he beat it, stage 4 throat cancer. And, we got another 10 years, and then it eventually came back, unfortunately, on of all places, the back of his tongue. And that was it. They gave him about a year, and really he worked until, just to give you a sense, he drove himself here until 2 days before he died.
Wow.
He was 90 pounds. He had a chemo, feeding tube, a chemo port. he could no longer talk anymore because it was in his throat. He was writing everything. We had him a little whiteboard that he would write everything down, and he was literally still driving himself to work and until just 24, 48 hours before he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did he pass?
About 5 years ago. It was May 15.
Wow.
And at the time, I was the director of marketing for the National Aquarium in Baltimore. My whole career was in Baltimore in tourism marketing. And it was the week after the Freddie Gray riots, which was a really bad time for Baltimore, and a really bad time to be the director of marketing for a tourist attraction. Of all the days, I was always in the city. I commuted from where the store is in a town called Bel Air, about 30 miles north of Baltimore. And the day of the riots, I happened to leave early because it was the day that my mom and my dad and I met with the lawyer and turned it from a sole proprietor to an S corporation. This is the week or 2 weeks before he passed. And as we're sitting in that meeting and I'm watching my dad really kind of take the steps to say goodbye to his life's work, the riots are breaking out, and I go home and I watch the city on fire, and I really watch my life's work kind of go down the drain. And even though I didn't make the decision that night, I think it was that night in my gut, I knew that it was time for me to leave Baltimore and time for me to do something different that God had put me where I was supposed to be in that moment, which was with my family and
right.
my mom and with my dad. And so it was a really kind of, out of all this chaos going on, this very clear path emerged.
Interesting.
Sorry. I just ran.
So that has to be, I mean, that's obviously a very kind of heavy challenge to not be in the business. And then, this business that was bootstrapped since 1971 by your dad, who was, obviously the enigmatic force behind it, also was probably the central nervous system and the computer system of the business was all in his head. What were some of those challenges as you took over for your dad? And did you ever work in the store at all, like growing up as a kid?
I mean, a little bit when I was a kid and maybe a teenager. I was always more interested in the marketing. I always wanted to do like the merchandising and the marketing than I did, wanting to like sell guitars. And my sister is a music teacher. My sister, I should point out, really is the one who got his gift. But so she's the musician, but didn't really want to do the business side of things. And whereas I had a little bit more of the marketing background and a little bit of a business background, more the marketing and PR than anything. So, I was here as a little bit when I was a teenager, but even the guys who worked here didn't know, weren't empowered really to do anything. I mean, for somebody who worked here 10 years, wasn't allowed to order, strings or picks. He did everything. And if a guy wanted to deal on the guitar, you had to go through my dad, which, I think we'll get into this in a little bit in terms of how things have changed. But yeah. What was your question? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Well, you answered part of it. The other part was, what were some of those initial challenges when you first came in and took over? Because my recollection of the story was, your dad nothing was computerized. He wasn't using a point of sale system and an inventory control system and all that kind of stuff. It was all in his head, and like you're just kind of walking in trying to make sense of all this.
Yeah, I mean, there was two tracks because, musically, I didn't know, I joked in that when we won the award that I'd never heard the word humbucker before. And, but I really didn't know the difference between a Strat and a Tele. I really didn't. I know, I mean, that's how green I was, what's a Stratocaster, what's a Telecaster. I didn't know there were two different kinds of guitar, or a parlor and a 3/4 size and a travel size, and so there was the music side of it, but probably even more than that, because we have very talented people that work here and our reps. But that first NAM, that first week on the job was summer NAM, and we would literally go into a booth, and they knew my father, but we would tell the story very quickly and just say, I think we have a relationship with you, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. And they would say things like 30, 60, 90 and net, and an extra 10. And I didn't know what a point was. I didn't know what terms were. I mean, so while I had worked in marketing, I had never run a business before. So I
Sure.
literally did not know what they were saying to me.
Did you tell them that, or were you just like, yeah, of course, yes, points.
I nodded and smiled a lot of nodding and smiling and thinking my way through it. But I have to say that our reps were really just a tremendous help and became great partners, and were really became partners in terms of walking us through what the relationship looked like, what the terms were, and that was invaluable help from them, because it wasn't just me learning, it was the staff learning as well, because suddenly, like Adam Payne, who's worked here for probably 15 years, suddenly he's in charge of ordering accessories. So he's on the phone with Chrissy and Hal Leonard going, okay, well, tell us, what are we on? We're on new order, or we're on, new releases, or what kind of programs are we on, or the NAM specials and all that stuff. So we all learned it together. It really was
right.
starting from scratch in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Wow. That's got to be intimidating.
Yes. And then, and then on top of it, you don't know if the place can even function without them. I mean, that was, you lost your, you lost the secret ingredient. And what did Musicland look like without Joe Noto? Because he was literally always here. And so, there was certainly Musicland, as a brand, but it was more, people would always say, I bought a lot of stuff from your father. Oh, I bought a lot of stuff from Joe. So it was the store, but he was the store. And so now suddenly the question was, what does Musicland operationally and from a brand standpoint, what does it look like, and how does it function without this man who was at the center of it all?
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, he wasn't using any type of point of sale or inventory control system or anything like that, right?
No, it was all out of his head. It was all, he would just call up the reps and say, give me 10 of these, 20 of those, whatever. So it was all, so that's the thing. We're placing orders. Well, I don't know if we sell 10 of the FG800s or 30 of the FG800s. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of guesswork.
How about the accounting? How was the accounting handled? Like accounts payable and receivables and just general accounting functions?
So he would work from 10 a.m. till almost 10 o'clock at night here at the store. And then he would go home. He would never go to bed. He would sit on the couch and he would do the paperwork all night. He would fall asleep usually sitting up on the couch. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we did institute, and we have a great accountant, but even the accountant wasn't, integral in a lot of the stuff because there was no QuickBooks and things like that. So we did install QuickBooks. We did hire get a payroll company to handle, the payroll, because he was literally figuring out the taxes, in a spreadsheet and then writing checks out of the check. So we brought in a payroll company. We brought in QuickBooks. I handle that. I mean, the first was literally taking his briefcase and just taking the invoices out and laying it out and just kind of figuring out who we owed. And I mean, he always paid. He always was a quick pay. So there wasn't like a lot of outstanding stuff and things like that. But
that's
the biggest pain,
huge relief.
Oh my gosh. The biggest pain was since we went to an S corporation and changed it was a new EIN number. So all the paperwork and all the dealer agreements had to be changed. So I'm literally in a meeting at the aquarium, and then I'm stepping into my office because I'm trying to get these cellos from a company, I won't say which one, but then they won't release them because the dealer agreement has to be redone, or the
Right.
credit card was in his name and they won't charge it because he's passed. And it's like, oh my gosh, we've been doing business with you for decades. And of course I'm panicking because I think any misstep will send the message to people that we're not going to be able to do this without them.
Right.
So it was very stressful back then. It was a very, I felt we had a lot to prove. There was a lot of pressure on us. So anything like that, like, oh my gosh, if we don't get these cellos, that we're going to go out of business.
Right. So, like I mentioned, what year was it that you won the store turnaround, best store turnaround?
So that was, I guess, 16, because he passed in 15. It was either 16 or 17, because he passed in 15, and it must have been 16 because it was exactly a year later. He passed in May. Our first NAM. I tell the story that, we went to the top 100, and I have no doubt in my mind that had he, he didn't have time to do these things. Had he applied himself, he would have been a top 100 dealer, but he just didn't. So when we went year one, we were in the back of the room, and Gary Linderborn, who's been our repair tech for 40 some years, and I said, our goal is to get on the top 100 list. And so we were thrilled to get on the top 100 list, and a year later be sitting amongst, the honorees, and then to win. It was extremely overwhelming, and it was sort of this culmination of this year journey, almost to the day of Summer NAM, where it kind of started.
Right. So you start in 2015, and of course, immediately there's just the triage, of trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. Where do we get reeds from? Where do we get strings from? Where do we get, all that kind of stuff? And then, but then tell me what were some of the key kind of logistical thinking on your end that got you from trying to figure out which end is up to, 2016 NAM's best store turnaround story. What were some of those big milestones? Where were you focused in on to make those changes to win that award?
Right. I think we won the award because of the story. I think that we didn't. I think we turned it around in terms of what happens to so many small businesses when the owner passes. It usually kind of just goes away. And I think the biggest thing for us is how we had to operate as a team now. And, I had learned a lot I had worked for a hotel company for 10 years, and they talked a lot about empowerment and accountability and things like that. So kind of the first thing we did was sort of divvy up responsibilities in terms of, okay, Adam is going to be in charge of rentals, and he's going to be in charge of accessories. Gary is going to be in charge of band and orchestra. Colin's going to be in charge of pro audio. I'll be in charge of guitars, and I'll work with kind of everybody on that. This person's going to be in charge of social media. So I think that the idea that we now had to, and we kind of formed a leadership team. We don't really have managers, and we don't have a lot of a hierarchy here, but we did kind of create a leadership team of 4 people that represented the, Vince would be in charge of the lesson program and technology. So the whole way we had to operate as a team, and the fact that particularly since particularly at that time, I couldn't sell a guitar to somebody because I didn't know what I was talking about. They're going to talk about pickups and things like that. I mean, I always say, if you know nothing, then I'm your guy. I can help you. The starter kit and the first guitar, I can do that, and I know more than I did 5 years ago now. But back then, and I was so busy behind the scenes trying to get the business side of it, and learning the money and the revenue and the cash flow and what it looked like, because he was a sole proprietor. So, it was all to him. He didn't have the payroll that we had, the staff that we had. But anyways, part of it also was empowering the team to work with customers that, they didn't need to come to me if they were working on a big deal and the guy wanted a strap or some strings, that they were empowered to form that relationship themselves with the customer. And that was a big change, a big shift for us on how we had to operate as a team versus just him.
Yeah, I think that is such an important piece. I was talking with someone last week, and we were kind of going through their business and some of the challenges, and we kind of uncovered that in the way their business was structured, almost everything that happened in the store had to have a manager's approval. And for a single location, they had multiple managers, and it created a real bottleneck for customers. And my challenge to him was, I don't think that's a great customer experience. A customer, to me, it sounded like trying to buy a car. You go in to buy a car, you start with your salesperson, but then there's sales managers and finance managers and service managers. All these people get involved, and it's a real headache, and it's frustrating. And God, buying a guitar should not be like buying a car. And so I love what you're talking about, empowering your team. I mean, first of all, you probably had to do it. I think the only way that you could probably jump in and navigate and survive is to divvy up responsibility. Otherwise, you would just get overwhelmed and inundated. But it's also just really smart, because then you create additional investment and ownership that your people have in the company, and you're trusting in their experience and intellect to help guide and make right decisions. So that's so smart. That had to be probably hard to do, because it wasn't the way things were done in the past. But, it's probably the only choice you could make in that situation too.
It had to be done. It had to be done, because there was no way that I could, it took a team of people to fill all of his shoes,
Yeah.
Which is really, I mean, really is a credit to everything that he did. I don't know how he did it. But yeah. And, so I worked at those, I was the director of marketing for a hotel group for ages. And that's, where I learned it from, because, the people at the front desk, if somebody was unpleasant, so the shower was cold or something came late or something like that. And they were empowered to do things like give a free breakfast or pump their parking. There was a water line that they could stay above. Now, if they wanted a free stay, something of a certain size, then they would have to get a manager involved. But
right.
And the nice thing is that they're forming relationships with the customers. So now, we hear it constantly. They always say, "You got a great team there. You got a great team there," which is really nice to hear from people.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest compliments a customer ever paid to us is, we got there for a little while. I feel like about once a week I was hearing this, but customers would come in and say, "Man, you all just really seem like you enjoy working here and working together." And that's just such a great compliment and testimony when customers can see that people are invested.
Right, exactly.
Sorry, allergies.
All right. I thought you were tearing up,
Yeah, that's just so beautiful. Employee empowerment. I love it.
You're very emotional.
Yeah. Well, I got the feels. That's really cool. So tell me about, so that was, that first year was just trying to kind of get everything figured out, get people in place. Since 2016, but not getting into 2020. So from 2016 to 2019, tell me about the progression of the business, how it evolved, what kind of changes you made, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, one of the biggest things we did, and it was, I don't know where we got the courage to do it, but we did embark on a total renovation. It was, it was gray carpeting, it was gray walls, it was institutional lighting. It was, it needed spruced up. Plus, we had taken over the rest of the building, the other half of the building, for a good 10 years, and it was kind of just being used for storage. So it was like you had thousands of square feet in your middle front of the building, and it was going unused, really. So we did a total renovation. The highlights were adding a humidity controlled acoustic room. It was, one of the things I saw at NAMM was, if we're going to be a legitimate music store, and first of all, we need to bring either Martin back in or Taylor, and we ended up with Martin. We need one of those brands, and we need to have an acoustic room. We can't have $2,000 guilds hanging on the wall without them being humidified. So I felt that that needed to be done to legitimize us as on the acoustic guitar front. They were all kind of hanging behind the guitars, the counter. We also really opened up the accessibility. Like, so if you wanted to play a $199 acoustic, it was behind the counter. You had to ask for it. So we brought a lot of that stuff out onto the floor and kind of created these zones, putting guitars with amps, with pedals, with little stations. So it's a balance because we really try to protect the product. So, there are stuff that's higher up, particularly the higher dollar things, but at the same time, it's a music store. So you do want people to pick up an instrument and play it. So there was the physical redesign with all new LED lighting, all new flooring, all new painting. But then there was the experience side of the renovation. The biggest part was we added this, I don't know, say call it 2,000 square feet performance space with a stage. We can fit maybe about 100 people really packed in. That's now connected to the store. So when you walk in, if you turn left, it's all open. By day, it has our keyboards, pro audio, drum stuff. But for example, Wednesday nights, again, pre-2020, would be our open mic nights. Then we did concert series, like we did a masterclass series with musicians from the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. We've had concerts with, clinics with Greg Koch. We've had the Paul Reed Smith Band, which was unbelievable to have them come and perform in our store. So overall, we tried to create a destination. It was one of the conversations we had very early on, which was if we were going to compete with online, the one thing that we could do that they can't is create an experience and a destination that people want. This is a place that people want to come, and they want to come and they can hear music, they can play music, they can talk music. So that was a big visually a big change, but it was also a big, because it was kind of a cold environment a little bit. And my dad was a little gruff, and it was sort of like, are you going to buy that, kid? That kind of thing. If you're not going to
buy it, old school.
Yeah, it's a little old school.
Yeah.
So we had to change
and not necessarily in a good way, but yeah.
Yeah,
right.
No, exactly. So we changed the vibe. People talk about that a lot when they walk in. There's music playing now. That the vibe is really positive and upbeat when you walk in the store.
That's awesome. You mentioned a competition and, trying to create an experience to compete against, what the online alternatives are. Tell me a little bit about what your competition is like and how you view your competition, both locally and online.
Well, I think that in the town, the only other store is a music and arts, which is a smaller music and arts. And I think on the major instrument side, it's not a lot. They have some guitars, but we have about 500. We're about 8,000 square feet. I think the biggest competition is on the rental side of things. I think they do a pretty good business. I think we have the market share on that. And then the closest guitar center is about 30 minutes away. And there's certainly people that will come to us and them. But at least it's not in our backyard. He was always afraid that they would open one right in the town of Bel Air. And then there's a Best Buy right next to us. And when they started their experimenting with the band and with the instrument business, we were lucky it never came to town and never came to fruition. But so there's not a ton of competition, and certainly his legacy in the 50 years has established us in the community.
Yeah. And are you about 30 minutes from Baltimore? Is that about right?
Yeah. Just up 95. It's about 25 miles up 95.
Okay.
But
and then with online competition, obviously, that's just a competitor that's continuing to grow. And you're definitely right on track, offering that experience and product. I mean, you got to have the selection. You don't have to have the selection that online retailers have, but you have to have a selection.
Right.
You have to have the stuff for people to buy. But you're right. People kind of want that experience. If they're going to come in, I always felt like if people were going to put pants on and drive across town. Like, we had to kind of make it worth their while to be there. And you'd either do that through experience, or you do that through your offerings, or you do that through pricing, or some combination of those. But pricing's difficult because we don't have huge margins that we can get real aggressive on. It's not like it was back in, well, before I was ever in the business. I hear stories of what things were like in the early days of the guitar business in the 60s and 70s, where, you know, there was nice margins and you could wheel and deal. It's not like that anymore.
Right. But, you know, as many times as there's somebody standing in the store looking it up on Amazon, or literally a parent that is, you know, the book, they're calling to find out the price of the book, and it's $1 difference, and they're going, oh, I'll get it on Amazon. I have to remember that there are also people, it just happened this week, where there's a guitar, he can easily order it online, but he's going out of his way to get it from us, even though he has to wait for it for a month or two because it's on back order, because he wants to support the local business, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think we have to always keep our mind focused on those folks. You know, I'm a member of the Independent Music Store Owners Forum, and you know, it's really interesting. A bunch of independent store owners on there talking about their businesses and their challenges. And there's some great content, but sometimes people get on there and they rail about the frustrations of business. And, you know, if you focus on the downsides of any business, it will make you bitter and frustrated. Yeah. And you can't focus on the customers who don't want you, you know, don't support you. You have to love, cherish, and embrace those who do. And you do that, and more of those types of people will seek you out and find you.
Right. Well,
and certainly your customers are. I mean, looking at like your Google listing, you know, you've got a good number of reviews. Your average review score on Google is 4.9, which is exceptional. And, you know, I read through a couple of the reviews, and people are talking about like there's just nothing like the personal service that they get by coming into your store. I mean, that's the experience you're trying to build. And then people who value that will see those reviews and think, there we go. That's where I'm going to go.
Right.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. So the redesign was obviously or the renovation, the refresh of your store. That was a big investment, big time commitment. About how long did that take from start to end? 1 year.
And we stayed open every day. It was amazing, considering every single hook in the store had to be moved at one point, because we redid all the flooring, we painted every surface. So it was like a shell game. And remember, this is in year one. So here's my team who has been used to. My father was such a stickler for things. That stapler was always in the same spot, you know. And if God help you if that stapler moved from that spot. And now, not only are we completely learning the business and everyone's learning new things, in the middle of that, I say we're going to rip the place to shreds. And the counter may not be in the same place 6 hours from now where it was. Like the register literally would move every day to where it was.
Right.
So God love them. They stuck through it. I mean, it was it nearly killed us, but we had a great general contractor, and it went flawlessly. And you know how construction can go. So it was a year to the day. It worked out.
What was the customer reaction to the renovation of the store?
They're amazed. They walk in and they can't believe it's the same place, you know. Now, and there are certain things, you know, the counters are the same counters. There's the book section is still there. So there's still Musicland elements there, you know, because you have to be careful when you're dealing with something that's so beloved. You know, there's only so much change people can take. So I think that we were very, you know, there's a couple of things we did, you know, by keeping the book section, by keeping the counters where they were, et cetera, et cetera. There's still those elements that the people are comfortable with, that this was still the Musicland that they knew and loved and grew up with. And then honoring my dad, you know, first we changed the name legally to Joe Noto's Musicland. And he knew that. That happened in that meeting with that lawyer that day. So his name is officially, legally, always part of this business. There's a picture of him, you know, with a dedication right by his desk. we created a retro logo with a caricature of him, and there's coffee mugs and stickers and T-shirts. So while we were pushing it forward, we also took steps to make sure people understood that we were honoring where we came from. And it's funny is that, so I grew up going to Disney, and the one thing my dad would do is take us to Disney World. That would be like the one thing he would leave the store for, would be take us to Disney World. So I always said it was a magical place. If it could get Joe Noto to leave Musicland, it was the most magical place on earth. And but I really, I'm obsessed with Walt Disney and the Disney company. And I read the books, I read the documentaries, and I really related to what happened when Walt passed, when they had just broken ground on this huge project they were going to do in Florida called Disney World. And the role that Roy, his brother, played in it, I don't know if a lot of people don't know it, but the reason it's called Walt Disney World versus Disneyland was Roy added the word Walt because he wanted everyone to always remember that this was his brother's vision. And so that the word Walt would always be a part of the name of the park. Which is really, I think, so I got a lot of inspiration from that story in terms of how we could honor our founding father, so to speak, but like Disney does, always kind of evolve and move it forward, but stay true to their roots and their legacy.
Certainly that's where your background in marketing and those marketing chops, I think, helped you made some really good decisions, because I don't know that a lot of us would have necessarily thought to do that. But that's such a great idea to be able to kind of bring the legacy forward and still embrace and tie those things in, but also refresh it and modernize it for the new era.
Right.
That's really cool. So do you mind, and if you don't want to, it's fine, but do you mind sharing a ballpark of what that renovation cost?
Sure. No, it was, what did it end up being? It was a couple $100,000. It ballooned.
Significant investment.
It was supposed to be it was supposed to be 100, and I think it doubled.
How has that changed your business revenue, making that investment?
I think that the people love the open mic nights, and that we do live music, and that we during concerts and clinics and things like that. People were very sad to see him go. So there were some people that took months to even come back to the store because they couldn't bear to come in and not see him. So to give them something exciting to see when they came in, I think kind of helped cushion that blow and got them excited that there'd be a future, et cetera, et cetera. Our gross sales have doubled in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're really proud of that. Really proud.
That's fantastic. Your dad would be really proud.
Yeah, he would have been pissed about the money that we spent, but
he'd have been happy with the end result, though.
He would have been happy. He would have been happy with the end result. Yeah.
I think that's such an important part. I mean, certainly with my stores, that's we put a lot of emphasis and focus on the appearance, because we think the appearance is an important part of the experience. And although one could have a shabby appearance, and if they embrace that, they could make that part of their customer experience too. If their value proposition was low prices, then they could make the argument like, hey, rather than spend money on new lighting and flooring, we just save you money on guitars. Like, one could do that. But I think a lot of the customers that we're looking for today, spending discretionary income, they want a clean, comfortable, inviting experience. And I think that's such a tremendous investment to make.
Right, exactly.
It's scary when you do it, though, because like spending six figures, to redo a store, that's a lot of money. And there's, in the back of your mind, you're wondering, well, what if it doesn't help, or what if it even hurts? What if customers don't like the changes? And and now I've got all this money I've sunk into it. But in my experiences, people always love it.
In year one, remember, in year one, we even knew what the heck was going on. And credit to my mom, we're not huge risk takers, and we just decided if we're going to do it, let's go all in, and let's do this thing.
In my experience, customers generally respond favorably when they see owners making investments into the customer experience. That generally is going to pay dividends for you.
Right.
So you also then did a brand new website, and when did that come about, and what was that process like?
Well, we updated the branding. My friend is a graphic designer, and I've always used him on my projects. And so we updated the logo and did the retro logo, and so that was kind of part of that process. We actually kind of revamped it twice. We had an initial new website, and then kind of revamped it a second time. And it was just part of the none of our inventory was online. None of our products were. So there was the marketing side of the website, but then there was this kind of balance of operational versus marketing. Our products were not online to see our guitars. So we had to go through the entire store and photograph and upload. And this was before we had Rain, before we had a point of sale. So we were just doing it through a widget. But we had to get all the inventory online so people could see what we had.
That is such a monumental undertaking.
Yes.
The website's probably the biggest challenge of my business career, trying to get a website that I'm proud of. And every time we tackle it to try to do it, I always think, I can't believe this is this difficult. Like, there should be an easier way to do this than what we have. There should be a way to more easily get product specifications and descriptions and photos than what we have. And it's just so cumbersome. It's unbelievable how difficult the process is.
Yeah. It's not easy.
No, it's not. So, any other changes since you've taken over? I mean, not that those aren't enough.
Yeah, right. What else do you want from us? Well, just the products. Bringing Martin back in, bringing PRS back in, bringing Black Star in, Eastman. So bringing a lot of new brands and product. Some of them back into the store, some of them into the store for the first time. And that's obviously helped one of the reasons why the revenue has grown, because we have a greater inventory than we did before. We were always a top, a Fender premium showcase dealer. So that inventory was there, but bringing some of those other brands in I think have helped legitimize our brand as well.
Right. Yeah, our industry is built on brands, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any of those flagship brands, then it can be a tough go, unless you're maybe like a boutique or something where you're dealing with like really high-end handmade products. But outside of that, if all you're dealing with is C-level or brands that people aren't familiar with, it's a difficult way to make a living, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
We should also mention that, you're not just a guitar shop, right? You guys also, you mentioned you do repair, but you also do band instrument rentals and you do lessons. Yeah. On the band instrument side, do you guys, I believe you guys, I know you do your own repair, but I think you also own all your own inventory. Is that correct, or are you an affiliate?
Yep. No. At one point, he was an affiliate. And then, I don't think that worked out too well. So he decided to forget that. I'm buying everything. So yeah, we own our own fleet, our own inventory of band and orchestra.
And roughly what percentage of your business is represented from like guitar sales versus rentals versus lessons and repair?
Rental it's big. I almost want to say half, if not 40%. It's a big part. It's a backbone of the business. It's we'll do over 1,000 rentals, new rentals each season. Not this year, but
right.
But another year. So it's a big part of the business. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's really interesting because we've spent a lot of time talking about the guitar business, but you're right. The rental business, for those that are strong in that, it's a significant contributor to our revenues and profit margins too, because it's so profitable. So 1,000 rentals out of a single location, that is a healthy number. How is it? And you've got a good competitor in your market area who's they're no slouch when it comes to the rental game. What's your secret sauce there? What do you think that you've done that's helped you to build such a big number of rentals?
I think that the on-site repair is huge. We offer a 10-month trial, so you can rent it for the school year for one price. So so I think people just go, oh, we did a price comparison of our 10-month trial versus if you did their 2-month trial and then went 8 months, and it's a huge. I mean, it's over at least $100 in savings. So there's a great value and ease, and just going, okay, just pay this today and you get it for the year. You don't have to worry about anything until next summer. I think that's always been successful for him. And then I just think there's the tradition. There's people that have been, their kids and even now grandkids. It's like, I always tell this story. I was in my old job. I got to go overseas to promote Baltimore to the travel media, and I was on top of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and I started talking to these two gentlemen who were from America. They were businessmen. And it turned out he goes, oh, I used to live in Maryland. I said, I'm from Maryland. Oh, I used to live in Maryland. I'm from Bel Air. He goes, oh, I'm from Falston, which is the next town over. And I said, did you ever hear of Musicland? And he said, of course, we rented our daughter's clarinet from there. So internationally, we're known.
That's amazing.
True story. But it just goes to show you that there is a great tradition of people who have been coming here for generations. So I think that's part of it.
Years ago, when we purchased a store in Joplin, Missouri called Ernie Williamson Music, and we had decided that we wanted to have a location there because we were doing a lot of business, and Joplin's about an hour away from Springfield. And so from my time working for Con Selmer, I knew that Ernie Williamson Music's the store to get there. It had been there since 1930. Well, it started in 1935 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, but then moved to Joplin in 37. And, had just kind of been there forever. It had been like an institution. And, I love this story because we decided that we wanted to do that, and so it was the next morning I was to call the Ernie Williamson in the store and kind of start to see what their interest was. Well, the evening before I'm to call them, I'm driving home from work and my phone rings, and it's the manager of Ernie Williamson Music in Joplin. He says, "Hey, I know this is out of the blue, but would you guys have any interest in purchasing our store?" And I almost drove off the road because just so shocked that would happen. And I told them well, actually, I was planning on calling you tomorrow, so yes, we would. And that's made such a difference for us because of just what you said. It's the legacy place of where to shop, and we get people who come in and they say, oh, my grandparents got their first instrument from the original store over on, Main Street, or Joplin Street was actually where the first store was at. And you're right. There's just, you can't, when there's an, 80-year tradition of people going to a place to get their supplies, that's a hard thing to beat,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really, really cool. So let's talk a little bit about what you're working on now and what 2020 has looked like for you.
Well, to be honest, up until the back to school season, it's been phenomenal. I guess people have had extra time on their hands and extra money because they're not doing anything else. So our summer, our spring and our summer was way up over last year. It was great, on the major instrument side. On the and of course lessons are down a little bit. And now that we're in back to school, next week will really be we'll tell the tale, but it's definitely off. I mean, it's definitely softer than it normally is. So I think this week, the next 2 weeks will be the first time that COVID has really hurt us. But then again, instruments don't go bad, so you'll just buy less next year. Or when they go back in person, you'll see a spike. Maybe in January, all of a sudden, they're going to scramble to get instruments. So our rental season may just happen at a different time this year.
Yeah, I was speaking with someone that, about a month ago, and they kind of shared that same thought. They just felt like most directors aren't going to allow an entire year to go by without them starting beginners because of the negative effects it's going to have on the program down the line. And so they just felt like some way or another, directors are going to find a way to start either, in the spring, or they're going to start, the next school year, they'll offer a beginning band class in the, 7th grade. If you start normally beginning band in 6th grade, they're going to find some way to, kind of get the pipeline full of the kids they need for their programs. And I tend to agree with that. I think some way or another, the directors are going to find a way to get kids in the program. But like you said, we've had the same boat. I think it's probably the only time that I've ever felt like I'm glad to be in the guitar business because, it's been a good year to be in the guitar business with people being at home more and wanting to make that kind of investment in something that's, tangible and lasts. But the rental side of it is way down. I mean, I think when I got our numbers earlier this week, we were down 50% on new rentals, and which was where we were expecting to be. I do think we're going to gain ground on that as we finish or continue through the school year. But that's anytime any important part of your business is down 50%, it'll kind of make you take a gulp and think like, all right, what do we do? What are we going to do? So
right. And then of course you won't have the monthly fees, down the road when it goes into the, so like for us, it'll be now, but it will also be 4 and 10 months from now when suddenly those monthly fees aren't happening. So,
yeah, I know for us, the thing that's been really helpful for us, in addition to just good retail sales with guitar and related products, but we've got a VP of Finance who's really great about being able to sort of project and forecast our future cash flows and things like that. And that's been really helpful for us to get on the front end of stuff so she can kind of forecast what she thinks our cash demands are going to be, and then we can make adjustments well ahead of time so that we can sort of stay up on everything. And before we had someone like that, we would often be kind of reacting to things, and which when you're reacting to it usually means you're kind of too late, and it makes it more painful. And so being able to be proactive on it has really helped us out a lot. And so that's one of the things she's working on right now is, what is this decrease in new rentals going to mean for our cash going forward, and what adjustments, if any, will we need to make so that we can continue to, be successful and honor all of our obligations and stuff.
Right.
So, well, I'm really glad to hear that 2020 has been good for you. I talk with a lot of stores, not just through the podcast, but also I've got a consulting business, and then I just like talking to store owners, so I talk to a lot of them. And I've noticed, those that are really heavy in the guitar business have a similar story to you and I this year, and those that aren't may not have such a positive story to share. I know some folks, friends of mine, that focus primarily on the school music market. They're going through a tough time right now, but that market is very resilient, and if they can hang on, they'll survive it and get through this. But certainly, if one is a strong guitar dealer right now, it's a nice time to be in the market. Although now getting the product is the challenge. It's not selling it. In the past, getting product was easy. Selling it was harder. Now selling it's easy, but getting the product is harder.
Right.
How have you dealt with that? Because the forecasting and the ability to get product has been such a big challenge. Any tips or tricks you found for that?
No special, no secret sauce. The biggest thing we did was we brought, since some of our acoustic brands were so thin, that we did bring Breedlove in, just because we needed to fill a gap on kind of a $400 to $800 price point. Mm-hmm. And they had some availability, so we did that. That's probably the biggest move that we made. Otherwise, it's just been trying to keep on top of it and ordering as far out as we can for Christmas. I just did a Yamaha order, and they just told me it's it'll be November to January. So then it's like, oh gosh, we might not even get some of these guitars for Christmas.
Yep. We're in the same boat. We started our ordering back in the summer, and even with that, we're not sure. Like, I don't have a lot of faith we're going to get the stuff that's being promised to us. So our purchaser is, scouring and looking for alternative options just in case things don't come through. And I do think this is going to be the year of alternative brands. I think there's going to be a lot more alternative brands sold, just because the major brands aren't going to be able to keep up with demand and supply. So it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Yes, it is.
So let's kind of take that to my next topic. Let's talk about our industry. So, you're relatively new to the industry. Tell me about some of the things that you think are right about it, or your favorite parts of the MI industry.
Well, it's a great community. It definitely has been great. All the different. I love that. There's Bill's Music in Catonsville. There's Ryan Fowler's in Towson. There's Chuck Levin's. Those are all kind of in our general area, and they've been nothing but kind and supportive. And we formed great relationship. Keith Grasso is another one. And somebody needs something. Do you have this in stock? I have a customer looking for this or that. It's really been great that we have this relationship where we're, obviously, quote unquote competitors, but it's been great to have kind of friendly relationships with all of them. I love what Fender has done in terms of recognizing that they play a role in trying to engage the player in terms of just not selling them a guitar, but with Fender Play and some of the other programs that they have, that they understand that as a brand that they have a responsibility to help get people engaged and stay with the product, and that will benefit all of us down the road. So I think that what they've done and what they're doing has been great. I think the biggest, but uniqueness of the industry is the pricing, and how people just assume that you're going to haggle on the price and you're not going to sell it for, well, what can you do? It's like, I don't walk into Target and say, what can you do on this? So that's been, that's, not shocking, but it's certainly been a learning curve to say, because you get this many points. Well, yeah, it would be great if I sold it at MAP, but who buys it at MAP? Everybody wants a deal.
Right. Well, and especially I think a lot of that comes down to store culture too. And if you've got a store where the history of that's been, kind of wheeling and dealing, which a lot of our industry has been built on for decades, then that can become, the culture of the store. And customers can, come to expect that there's going to be discounts in place. Have you had any success working against that?
No, we have taken the approach of working with people because there's just too much competition. I mean, there's just too much incentive for them either to get 4-year financing on Sweetwater or, this coupon at Guitar Center. So I'd rather than, sometimes I always say, sometimes you're on offense and sometimes you're on defense. And sometimes I would rather I'd rather lose 10% and then get it from us and form the relationship with them and get them in the habit of buying from us than sticking to the, this is MAP and we're not gonna move off of that. So, and I think that's why our gross sales have gone up as well, because we're obviously selling more things than we did before.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that Bob Nagin always talks about from Whiz Bang Retail. Keeping in mind the lifetime value of a customer.
Right.
And if you can, break even on the front end, you'll break the bank on the back end. And it's all about getting that customer, turning a prospect into a customer, which obviously the difference is a customer is one who makes a purchase, and then creating such a good experience where you get return visits. Now, that shouldn't be confused to think that, as someone makes a purchase from you and they're all going to always come back forever. We make a lot of one-time purchases. We never see people again, we make a lot of one-time sales. But we also get people that come back, and then some of those people end up becoming monster customers. I mean, monster in a good way. They end up moving on from that beginning guitar to an intermediate guitar to a higher end guitar to maybe even something custom, and so it's all about kind of filling that pipeline with lifetime customers. And you're right, you kind of do what you need to do in the beginning. We found though, for me, we've kind of taken more of an approach because it's becoming less and less common to have to haggle. And so our approach has often been if someone asks for that, we just say, we almost always are able to meet any other offer that you see out there. So, what are you seeing? What else? What do we need to price match? And that often can kind of change the approach that you take, because sometimes people they're interested in financing, or they're interested in a bundle or something like that, and that we found that to be somewhat successful in helping us to restore our margins on those purchases, because it can get out of hand if you're not careful about it, you know. So what are some of the challenges? We were kind of talking about the, you know, haggling being kind of challenging. Anything else you see in our industry that you think could be improved or that you wish were better?
Well, I mean, for us, I mean, for me, one of the bane of my existences is the lesson, makeup lesson policy. And it's just, we kind of have our policy is no makeup lessons, although the teachers always work with it, but they don't quite always understand. And it's a small percent. Again, it goes back to what we said earlier. Don't let 1% ruin the rest of it. But there's just some people who don't understand that you're paying for the teacher's time. They're renting a room. They're reserving their time for you. And, you know, they don't understand, well, if I'm not there, why should I have to pay for my lesson? And I don't know what the answer is to that. But
have you seen Mike Risco's presentation at NAMM about, I think it's titled something like No More Makeup Lessons or End Makeup Lessons Forever, something like that. Have you seen that?
No, but I need to.
It's really good. I think it may even be online, so you might be able to go to the NAMM website and watch it. But it's really good. He shares some of the strategies that they use at Mike Risco Music to eliminate and overcome this, you know, this need for makeup lessons, and it's really exceptional. So I'd encourage everyone to go look for it and find it. If you can't find it, well, heck, you might reach out to Mike, or you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to share some of the details. But if it is out there online, I'd prefer people to see it directly from him rather than me retell it. But he has some really good things that we've put into place that have helped with that as well. I think if that's one of your biggest complaints about the industry, I think you ought to be a pretty happy guy then, because that's a minor complaint.
Yeah, right.
I agree with you, though. There's a lot of camaraderie and togetherness in our industry. I do think that comes more upon your mindset. You know, like you, I tend to have a mindset of I'm willing to work with competitors, and I heard someone use the term once, competimates. They're almost like teammates and competitors, and I totally agree with that. I used to not agree with that when I was younger. I was more competitive and aggressive and stuff, but as I've gotten older, you know, that's changed somewhat. And I just now realize, you know, a rising tide raises all ships, and we're much better off to work together than work against each other. And I really enjoy how most of our competitors embrace that mindset. You know, we have some that don't, and that's okay. And but others do, and it just makes us stronger as an industry and as brick and mortar retailers.
Right, absolutely.
Has there been anyone in our industry that you've admired that maybe has been like a role model for you, or that you've gotten inspiration from, other than your father? And obviously your father was, you know, a huge influence for you, but anyone outside of that you've kind of looked to that has helped you to maybe lead or guide your business?
Well, my Fender rep is Frank Severo, and he's been a great partner and become a great friend. And so he's helped me a lot in terms of in terms of Fender, which is our biggest brand. So it's a very important relationship. I can text him any hour of the day, a question, and he answers me. But he also has helped me with the industry overall and connecting me with other dealers and just being a part of the Fender family. I think that's where you and I may have met originally, maybe at one of the Fender dealer meetings.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, you know, being a part of that quote unquote family has been really great. And then John Gallus, who's a rep for like Armadillo and Dean and some other folks, was very close to my dad. He was really instrumental. He was the first one to tell me about NAMM, and that was that sort of aha moment, because, you know, I looked back and thought about my tourism career and how I would go to trade shows and learning seminars and then kind of learn the industry that way. And when I realized, when he told me about this thing called NAMM and that there was a very similar setup, that was kind of this moment where it was like, oh, okay, there's resources and I could go to this thing and I can learn. So he's been a great a guiding light as well.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of things there that are definitely worth a shout out. NAMM has just been such a tremendous resource for me as well, and in addition, of course, to getting some face time with our manufacturers and getting to meet some other retailers, just all the educational content that NAMM puts together. If a retailer will avail themselves of those resources while they're at the trade show, and then also when at home, because a lot of those sessions have been posted online, you can learn so much from so many very smart people of how to build and improve your business. And so if you're willing to apply yourself and work hard, you can build a successful music store even in today's climate. And NAMM's just been a huge part of that. And sometimes, people will complain about NAMM or think that NAMM doesn't do enough, but I just have never understood that. I have so much regard for what they do, and what all of the team at NAMM does to help us retailers be successful and help manufacturers sell product, and that's been tremendous. And then, Fender, I think the Fender story is really fascinating. I have the same experience with my rep that you have with yours. I mean, I feel like he's a partner in our business. He's always trying to help us grow and improve our business. Our Fender rep is a guy named Scott Emmerman. And he's a tremendous asset for us. And we didn't always have that. We had Fender reps that were nice guys, but they were the Fender rep, and they were there to load us up. And it seems like when Andy took over as the CEO, there just was a shift there. And I remember his first that first dealer meeting with him being there, and he had said something. And it was kind of a small thing, but it really rang in my head. He was talking about, of all things, gig bags. And he was saying, we should strive to create a product, even something as simple as a gig bag, that dealers want to stock. And we shouldn't be in a position where we're forcing dealers to stock product. And I remember thinking, geez, if that guy takes that mindset and applies it to this whole business, all of the Fender business, then we're going to be really, really successful. Because in the past, I felt like Fender was just we make tons of stuff, you should have all of it, and no matter how much you're selling or how much you're doing, you should be doing more. There was never any gratitude, there was always a ton of pressure, and there was rarely any support. And now it's just so much different. They're making really compelling product. We're getting great support from them. They're one of our largest vendors too, but they're also one of our best. And
Right.
I would not have said that 5 or 10 years ago. And so I'm really grateful to all of the team at Fender for what they've done for us and for the transition they've made in their culture. I think it's remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
The year that he took over, I actually went to the dealer meeting, and we were on the verge of dropping Fender. And I was like, I'm going to give this new guy a shot, hear what he has to say. And I remember, we were so disenfranchised with the brand. When I came back from the dealer meeting, I was telling our team, hey, the new guy at Fender is actually a guitar player, and he said a lot of good things. Everyone was like, all right, you went out there and drunk the Kool-Aid, and they didn't believe it. But then over time, they were like, hey, it's different. And I'm like, yeah, it is different. And anyway, shout out to Fender. I think that's a hard thing to do, to be one of the biggest brands in an industry and to change your culture in a positive way. That's a hard thing to do. So kudos to everyone there who's done that. So that's really great. So I often like to talk about what people's biggest assets are. I think certainly in your case, your marketing chops and your sense of humor are probably two things that really help you to adapt and thrive in this business. Tell me about some of the things that you've done marketing wise, and maybe also give us some advice of how you think other stores could improve some of their marketing efforts.
Oh my gosh. Oh Lord, I don't know how to answer.
Just spitball something. You'll come up with, you'll spit out some gold, I'm sure.
Well, I think that it goes back to that whole creating an experience thing, and that we all have the same stuff, and a guitar is a guitar is a guitar. I go back to my hotel days where a hotel room is a hotel room is a hotel room. It's a bed, and you could, so if you play the price game, you'll lose every time because you'll just outbid yourself or underprice yourself. So what we did when we were at the hotels, I was with these boutique hotels, is create this experience where we had packages and exclusive benefits like VIP entry to the aquarium and character breakfasts and things. Very Disney-esque in terms of what we did. So I think that we have to remember that why should someone come to your store and buy that Strat Pack versus a million other places they can get it, which is what we've tried to do here. With even if they don't play at our open mic night, they love the fact that we do an open mic night, and it shows that we're supporting local musicians, and that's important to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what else did you ask me?
Well, what advice would you have for people on the marketing? And because I think marketing in our industry is not something that most independent stores do particularly well at. It's hard. None of us are probably marketing experts or professionals when we got into it. Most of us were guitar players or trumpet players or whatever. So what advice would you have for people that want to up their marketing game?
I think that you've got to engage your customers and make them a part of it. And I'm not saying we probably need to do a better job of this as well. But, for example, on our social media, we're finally posting videos. It took us a while to get there, of us playing the guitars that are coming in. If we were doing it right, we would have the customers, the local musicians that have a following. We should have them come in and play the guitars and give their take on it and their review, because people trust, in this whole age of social media and the online reviews. Obviously, we're going to say it's great. We're trying to sell it to you. So, I mean, they believe in us. I think not that they don't trust us, but they would certainly trust a local influencer more. So I think that it's advice for them, but it's advice for us as well, because we're not doing it to the extent that we should, is engage more in local influencers and let them be ambassadors, for the product itself. Because you got local experts, you got a lot of local experts out there playing in bands and all that. And how cool would it be if they were the ones that unboxed the latest Fender limited edition and played it and gave their take on it?
Yeah. We've done a little bit of that over the years, and you're right. It's people. We always get a good response from it, and people enjoy it. It's something we should get back to. One of my challenges is I love new things. I love new ideas. I love new projects. I don't really relish existing projects or things we've done for a long time, and so I'll get into something, and if it's successful and works, I'm like, that was fun, and then I don't stick with it. Right. I need to challenge myself with that. I think the guys at Anderton's do a nice job at that, and of course they're using a lot of their own staff and stuff like that. But they make those review videos they do on YouTube for products very entertaining. I think they try to be truthful and without necessarily deriding any product, but talking about which ones they prefer, which ones they don't, and they come across as very likable and trustworthy, which is certainly an important part of what we do, building that trust. So I think it's really, really important. So tell me, this is a tough question to answer too, but where do you think what's gonna be Musicland's future in the next 12 months? What do you see over the next 12, 15 months, something like that?
Well, it's our 50th anniversary, and COVID has sort of put a big question mark on things we wanted to do, like an outdoor concert and things like that. So focusing on the 50th anniversary, we're working on a book to kind of commemorate it, and some other things, but we're kind of putting everything on hold to see with COVID what we can do. I don't know if it will happen in the next 12 months or not, but I think that the next things, big ideas on our lists are we need to do more from a group learning standpoint. We built a classroom, we're not maximizing it in terms of maybe a summer rock camp or a 4-week starter guitar class for beginners. So there's a lot more there's a lot more programming that we could do that we're not doing to utilize some of the space. And then we've also talked about turning it into a recording studio and starting our own like record label. And we've actually even talked about, if there's a local band that our graphics guy you would get a whole package. You'd get your CD cut, you'd get a website template, you'd get a logo, and kind of, create a resource on our website for here's local bands that could be hired, here's their demos and things like that. So, we've talked about these sort of big ideas. And so probably not in the next 12 months, but maybe in the next few years we can get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to be able to meet in person again before we can do that. What do you think the future looks like for Musicland in 10 years?
I probably just answered. That was probably the 10-year answer.
That was 10 year? I think you're going to be able to pull that off in 5 years.
Okay.
5 years or less.
5 years or less.
That's your challenge.
I don't know. I don't know in 10 years. I probably don't have a good answer for that. But
no, it's good. It's fine.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, if you could send a message to yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell the younger you?
That everything works out for a reason. That's what I've learned, and that that everything happens. There's always a plan. It's been really kind of almost spiritual in a way how everything happened, and so I would just tell myself to stop stressing so much.
Well, and I think that's such that is probably one of the most common answers to that question, as people feel like, things work out. It's I think if you work hard and surround yourself with good people, if you're a good person, things tend to work out for you. And that's those. It has a knack of kind of working that way. And hard work and preparation. You're going to be faced with opportunity and challenges, and if you have those things behind you, you'll come through it. You'll have some scrapes and bruises here and there, but you're going to come through it. So,
right.
What message would you like to send to yourself 10 years in the future?
To enjoy the ride, to be proud of what we've done, and to not let that 1% ruin the 99%. To not let the few frustrating situations that you're not going to be able to please everybody. That's a big fault of mine. I want everyone to like us and love us, and it's just impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to, I always go, like, my friend owns this phenomenal restaurant in Little Italy. It's one of the best in existence, and there's people that don't like it. Disney World is like the most magical, amazing place on earth. There are people that hate it. I got to remember, there's somebody left Disney World a bad review. You know what I mean? Like, what is happening? So, like, how can you not be impressed with that place? But that's me. I love it, but that's not for everybody. Yeah. So we cannot please everybody all the time, and I got to remind myself of that. There's going to be people who just don't. We're just not for them.
Yeah. That is such a great point, and maybe one of the best I've ever heard to that answer. Because you're right, like I'm an active YouTube person. I watch YouTube almost every day, and you'll see some amazing performances, amazing musical performances, or whatever. And there's always people that have disliked the video,
right?
And I'm always like, people? What in the world? Like, what did you see that you could possibly dislike it? Right. But there always will be. There's no video, and a matter of fact, the more popular it is, and more actually well regarded and loved it is, the more downvotes it'll have. Now it'll have more upvotes than downvotes. But and you're right. If you focus on your detractors, if you focus on the haters, to use the kind of popular violence there, then it's going to just drive you crazy. It's going to make you bitter, and you're focusing on the wrong thing. You got to focus on the people that love you and serve those folks. So, boy, you were right on with that, Larry. That's great advice.
Thank you.